Oh, hi. Hey, would you like to join us for another episode of Art of the Game over here at Cabot Crossing?
Why, I would.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
What should we talk about today?
Okay, well, so you'll notice we're missing Greg. So Greg
He's not
had to duck
dead.
out. Yeah, Greg's gone. Yeah, we fired him. So anyways, this is my revenge for being fired the other day. So anyways, when I was at the show, and last weekend, big surprise again, but so we were just talking about the lady I talked to who was GMing kids. Well, there were actually two topics that came out of that conversation, because she also was telling me that she didn't feel creative. Like, she had a tough time with ideas. Like, how do I pull this game together? And I think a lot of what she did was kind of riffing off what the kids thought was fun. They turned their gritty RPG adventure into a My Little Pony thing. But we ended up in a conversation about, like, how do you put together a game when you don't have ideas or you don't feel creative? And the nice thing about the industry is that it comes from this lineage of no creativity. Like, it was always the same thing, and there's a lot of options. If you go back to the old school, there's all these templates that already exist for a game format that you could do that doesn't require a lot of prep, a lot of knowledge, or pre-planning, right? And the dungeon crawler is like the classic. You don't even need a narrative. It's just a big obstacle course with monsters and treasure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty easy. And you can find any OSR type games that can do that for you. OSR is big on random charts, which is great too. So, we're actually, and that's another thing. I feel like role-playing games in general, but also OSR style and also story narrative type games, I think they'll make you more creative by their design. And for example, we're in another group, and John and Play, we're about to play a game called Freebooters, and we're doing a funnel, and we have to create these villagers, and we just went through random charts to create them, and then we just try to make sense out of those selections. It's a great exercise. Anybody can do it, and we came up with lots of fun and creative stuff.
You might want to define what a funnel is, because not everybody who's going to be watching this video knows what it is, because as you well know, we are pushing this to new players.
Yes, a funnel is a concept from Dungeon Crawl Classics. It's also used in this Freebooters game. It's called a gauntlet in Shadowdark. And basically, you start off as level 0, super weak people, commoners, villagers, whatever, who go through a very dangerous situation. And it's a funnel because you start with multiple characters, and eventually you'll end with one. And that could be your first level 1 character.
Yes,
it's very simple. You don't have a lot
survives.
You don't get a lot of abilities because you're level 0. They probably won't survive, so you're not overly connected to every one of them. And by, at least in this game where you roll everything random, it allows you to try a little bit of everything. And I think that's really great for creativity and learning a game.
Yeah. Well, there's also there's also the trope of starting in the tavern, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like that's where every game began back in the day, right? You could just throw them into the tavern and let this, see what happens.
Yeah. Too much drinking leads to fighting.
Yeah, the tavern. Yeah, there's all kinds of adventures that can happen in the tavern. There's also like the job board. You could do that. Like when I made my game, I actually put a random roll chart full of 100 story prompts. So like you don't even have to invent an adventure. It's right there. Just riff off of what this thing says, and they're all very involved. Very like there's a lot of meat on those bones, right?
Yeah, and if you do a dungeon crawl, like you said earlier, like Shadowdark, for example, is really well-written ones. They're real easy. You don't even have to do much pre-reading, as long as you know the core rules, and you can just follow it as you go and describe and just roll with whatever's creatures there or something. It's pretty easy, and then as you do it more, you'll get more used to playing around with that. So.
And you can also start out with the characters already on a job, which I've done many times. So it's like, oh, well, you are on this job. You have to go, there was bandits that have been attacking, local caravans. Take out the bandits. Or that there's a monster which is being in trouble, for the village. Get rid of the monster. And you don't even have to enter into all kinds of complexities. It can literally just be a hunt. And, when you need an idea, but you just need to get it started. And, it will build. If you're going to keep going, the ideas will build. But it's like, there's all these classic formats. You don't have to have anything complicated, and you can just run a module. Find a little cheapo $10, $15 adventure and just run that. That's also a good one.
Yeah, and there's certain story-based games like Powered by Apocalypse or Blades in Dark.
Yeah.
Those are a little bit harder to learn. At least Blades in Dark, I think. But they are made to be, some of them are more improv friendly than others. Some of them encourage you not, learn the rules, but don't even think of what your adventure is until you start. And that will help you a lot in creating and improvising. There's a book, this could be overkill, but maybe a little bit later on, there's a book called Improv for Gamers.
Nice.
By Evil Hat. And it has a lot of little exercises that improv performers can do. That's pointing towards learning how to game better and improvise and stuff too.
Well, with me as my jamming technique, like I, like to have a life outside of the game, and that's kind of one of the points that I push. And so I've certainly like developed the skill of being able to sit down and run it without having to have a lot of prep. And so there's obviously, it takes a while to get to that point, but like, and that's obviously a totally different thing than what we're necessarily talking about. But it's like I like being able to just sit down and just run it and kind of have a good idea what I'm doing. So it's like some of these improv skills are not bad. And the person I was talking to, again, may very well be a very specific case, because she just didn't feel creative, and I'm sure a lot of people don't, and that is a barrier, to GMing, right? But then, like, where do ideas come from too? Because that's the other thing is like, there are ways to get the ideas, and we have our classic formats, but you can also I challenge you to read a comic book and not suddenly feel inspired to run that story or to have something from the comic book. Like, you can read, watch it, go watch Conan, the original one, the good one. You're going to get ideas from that movie.
Yeah, and it's a long tradition in role-playing games to borrow concepts from television, film, and
make sure you return them when you're done, though.
Yeah. Don't publish those, but for fun playing, you can.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's like, I had a friend one time who had he had watched this B sci-fi movie and just lifted the entire storyline into the game. There's like Adventures in the Forbidden Zone or something, and I happened to have just seen the movie. I'm like, oh, I know what you're doing, and that kind of killed it for him. He's like, oh, and it's like I should have kept my mouth shut. So if you catch your GM doing that, be quiet. Don't tell him that you spotted it. One of the things I was talking to a lady about one time was that, God, I feel like I'm rehashing some topics, but like she. She didn't know how to run a Cyberpunk game. She picked up my game. Her players wanted to play it. She didn't know how to run it, so she'd message me on Facebook. And I had told her, like, there's no difference between a fantasy story and a Cyberpunk story, right? Or Sword and Sandals. Like, it's like the stories are all the same. It's just how you clothe them. Obviously, like, the different genres have their tropes. And you have to learn them. But, like, you can take the same stories and just kind of, like, reframe it into a new context. Beating up. Okay, so over here we're beating up the bandits that are harassing the caravan. Well, over here it's a bunch of gang members selling drugs. It's like, but it's the same story, right?
Yeah, and I notice a trend now with a lot of role-playing games too. They tend to, somewhere in the book, have touchstones where they talk about certain TV shows, movies, whatever, that have the feel. So you can always like watch one of those to help you get an idea of the genre if you don't know it.
Absolutely. I mean, like, like I remember we were talking about the Ninja Turtles RPG. There it is. But it's like, that was successful partially because there was this hit underground comic book series, right? And you're talking about like the kids wanted to play Marvel, right? Well, they're reading the Marvel comics. So they've got an idea about what to do. So it's like, all you got to do is, if you're going to run that game, just copy kind of what you see in the comics.
Yeah.
You can change it up a little bit, but it's like, it's pretty straightforward. I mean, unless you're trying to read like do like the Chris Claremont era of the X-Men, where those are some nicely complicated stories. A lot of them, most of them are not that well thought out. Like, it's mind-numbingly simple in a lot of cases. Let's just go beat up a bad guy. It's like cool fights, punching lots of stuff.
Yeah. There's a bad guy doing something. Let's go there and punch him.
Exactly. Like we're gonna wreck the city, but we're heroes. Yay! It's like, that sort of thing. So
yeah,
that's kind of low hanging fruit, but it's very easy to make that work.
Yep.
Yeah.
And listening to your players, listen to what they're saying. They will provide you ideas as they're talking that you can run with. So
yeah, I was actually telling a kid that just this weekend, because we were, talking to somebody who, I talk to these new game masters all the time, and it's like, I told him, like, your best inspirations come from those guys. And I was pointing his players out. Like, you just need to get somebody engaged, and then they will, you feed off of them and they feed off of what you're doing. And it's like, but like once you get them hooked on a story and they're rolling, like, you're half of what you're doing is reacting to what they're doing. And
Yeah.
you just have to have like good plots and ideas. But like I think a lot of it comes down to comfort level. Like once you get comfortable with what you're doing, you're going to find it a lot easier to have to like the ideas are going to flow. I think a lot of like that feeling of lack of creativity may come from, nervousness.
Yeah. Well, our society tends to beat creativity out of us before we become adults, right? So,
are we getting into the AI discussion again?
now I'm not talking about AI. Before AI, right?
Yeah.
So, those are childlike things. Grow and go join the workplace. So we're scared to be creative. It can be, unless your job is that, and because you're exposing yourself in some way, right? When you do that, and you just got to work past that for gaming. Make the game space a safe place where you can be as goofy and silly as you want to be. So,
I had a grandfather that, like, I don't know why, but he's like looked down on writers. He thought that it was like that's what those people do. But you need a job. You need to, like he didn't value those creative fields. And certainly, like, I didn't get any support from my parents. Like, they weren't necessarily staying in my way, but it's like, I was kind of on my own with a lot of that stuff. And
how did that make you feel?
Yeah, exactly. Well,
but that's a common thing. People, there's been studies that show that creativity drastically drops from when we're young kids.
Well, I think it's not uncommon that parents and kids don't understand each other. I actually would advocate for, like, if kids want to play role playing games, I think you should do it with them. I think because like for me as when I was a kid, my parents were involved in my life, but they weren't participating in it. Right. Like my dad took us on camping trips and we got to do stuff, but it was like, it was more of like him, I think, needing that break from the struggles of his life. And, my mom took care of us, but it's like neither of them were particularly involved in our lives. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that, I think it's important to do that. I think if your kids want to do this, I think you should do it with them, because it's like it's an opportunity that's only going to come once. And
I think this is a great thing for that. If it's not this, it's probably going to be this if you're watching this video. But if it's not this, then play a sport with them. But do something with your kids. You can pass on, if you know that topic, you should probably do. You can pass on skills and knowledge, and they'll remember that forever. And it's a great way to bond.
I think in my case probably was tough for my parents, as I didn't want to play sports. Like I was definitely inclined to do other things. I was very creative. I was inclined to be a writer, draw, all these things. And it just, if I was going to do any of that stuff, I was going to do it on my own. And I wish I had more ambition as a kid. And I think that we definitely need more support from our parents. So it's just, so it's like, if you would like to play, if you're just finding this video for the first time and you want to, learn how to play D&D or any RPG, the very first episode on this playlist discusses all the basics that you need to know. And it covers what you actually need, not what they tell you at Wizards of the Coast. But like, that's important, because if, that episode, even though it's longer format, we take a lot of the complexity out of it. And you want to do that with the kids. If you're going to, like, if you're going to even run a game like D&D with small children, probably, I think probably 10 years old is probably the youngest. But like, you want to have the foundation of, like, what are the basic simplicities that you need to deal with, and you got to be prepared to, like, guide them through it, and, like, let them engage with what they want to do, but you tell them what die to roll. It's not necessary for them to understand how the game mechanics work. It's probably better if you don't get into that.
For young kids.
Yeah, keep it very simple.
And they'll learn math, possibly.
Yes, yes, they will.
That doesn't hurt.
Yeah, I ran into somebody who's using a D&D game as part of his math class. Where he's having the kids, like, they'll do a D&D game in the class, and then they have to apply the math formulas to the scenario that he was just teaching them. and
Yeah,
you could do the same thing with your own kids.
I always thought it'd be cool for younger kids or for older kids, like teenagers or something, if you could like take a D100 system, like Mythras and stuff. They have a lot of historical games, and I thought that would be amazing. And they got lots of detail and stuff. If you were like use those role playing games, be like have them play characters in some kind of historical scenario and use the role playing game, I think it would be an amazing way to teach kids about history and stuff. They would definitely remember it.
Yeah, absolutely. So Marks, what do you think like the best games to introduce kids to? Because I think that 5e, the 2014 edition, is probably a good one. Though as a parent, you're probably going to want to, or whoever's running the game obviously wants to simplify things a bit, like help the kids through, like focus on what they're doing more than the game mechanics. But there are some simpler games, like a lot of the Powered by Apocalypse games are actually quite simple.
Yeah, they're quite simple. None of them are perfect for kids, but there are some good ones out there for kids.
Yeah.
There are other. I have not played these, but like I've heard of Hero Kids. It's supposed to be for ages 4 to 10, I think. There's another one, like I think Amazing Tales is a super light game. I haven't played a whole lot of. I know DC-20 has been playing around with a kids version that's lighter.
DC-12 is what they called it.
Yeah. So, and I think Nimble was talking about maybe making a kids version.
Oh, and make the characters for them. Show up with pre-gens. I think you're going to make a big mistake if you make little kids try to invent their own characters.
Yeah.
Once they're into it and they're asking to play more, sure. But again, keep it simple and help them. But I think you need to show up with pre-gens for the kids.
Yep. So those are some good for really young kids.
Yeah.
But I mean, like slightly older kids, your Marvel Multiverse, something that's an IP that they recognize, I think will help motivate them a lot to want to play it.
Star Wars. But an earlier edition of the game. I don't know how the kids are going to react to the funky dice in the current one.
Some people like it. I don't know. I haven't played it, so I can't say one way or the other about it. But there are games out there, and if not, I mean, even just straight up D&D, you can, if you make characters for them in advance, and you are just don't go too deep into the rules, just tell them what to do, they'll have fun.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was introduced to it when I was 13, and I had a good time.
I was like 11, 12 or something like that. Right. And that's just fine. I didn't completely understand what a role-playing game was yet.
I definitely did not. It wasn't until I bought the first games myself that I really got into it. But
it wasn't until I bought one, read it, and ran it myself that I really understood.
Yeah. And in that case, I was like getting, as I showed last episode, I had the Robotech RPG and the Ninja Turtles one, which, here's those ones. So they were not that complicated. I mean, really, for 13, 14, 15. Well, I think it was about 15 at that point, but they were not hard. I mean, it was actually really quite easy.
I played a bunch of those in high school. So
they were not difficult games. So, shoot, Marks, I think we kind of have an episode there. It's a little, that's the secret to getting a shorter episode is have two people.
That's it. Yeah. But I would encourage, again, Powered by Apocalypse games, because, for example, this is a good example for getting creative with it. There's a game called Action Movie World, and it's basically where you play actors playing characters in a bad 80s movie.
Nice.
And we would actually do live plays sometimes at DragonCon. We would not have any idea. We would come up with basics of who the characters were, but we still wouldn't know what the actor characters that the players are going to play. But we didn't know yet what genre or anything like that was, and we had let the audience pick it, and then we would build it all out. And within 2 hours, we had a whole full movie craziness to happen.
Well,
so it's a great way to really make you creative and
one thing I mean, I haven't played a lot of Power by the Apocalypse. What I did play, I was really impressed with how simple the game was, and it definitely gives you a lot of opportunity to embellish on these basic abilities because they're kind of simple. But when we were playing, looking at Monster of the Week, that book covers every major TV show that you could possibly pick in that category. You got your X-Files, you got your Supernatural, you got your Buffy, right? So you could. It's like if the kids were, somebody's a fan of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, hell yeah, you could run that with that, and doesn't have to be that serious. And there's a lot of other genres in Powered by the Apocalypse as well, and that probably would be a good. I mean, there's a superhero one too. It probably would be there would be a really good choice, I think, for
Avatar Legends, Avatar Last Airbender. That's PBTA.
Yeah, I mean, some of them have mature subject matter, so you're going to need to filter some
Apocalypse
of that.
World, especially first edition, not kid friendly.
Yeah,
so.
Well, it depends how you run it, but
First edition, no.
Yeah.
There's Sesame first edition,
Yeah. But I think that there's a lot of options there, and you could definitely make it work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So lots of creative options, lots of cool stuff, and hopefully these tips help anybody who's trying to learn to be more creative. So, what do you do? What about role playing games? What do you think about role playing games helping you with your creativity? What is it about role playing game that maybe really brought out your creativity the most, or what game or something?
Yeah, and are you one of the people that went on to bigger and better things because of that experience?
Yeah. Did you become an artist, a game designer, or a writer or something? Let us know. All right. Well, thanks so much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe and like, all that good stuff. And until next time, keep on creating.
Yeah. Keep playing and, take a kid to a game.
When the dice roll high, we touch the sky. But when they crash, it's a belly laugh. Genre play, lighting the way. Our tale